Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we are going to talk about why I think this is so important to learn about caregiving. And there are some big reasons. Now, in case you're wondering where I'm pulling this information from, down below in the description there will be links to the articles where I am pulling this information from. And it's also from my own personal experience. Because it is from my own personal experience, I'm not going to cover things which I have no experience of, but the information is linked down below in there, and it will talk about other things. But one of the first things that we need to talk about is, why? Why is this so important, and why do I think it's so important? It's because, well, caregiving, that number is growing. That number is growing by a lot, and I mean by a whole lot. It is very interesting to see what has happened within the last few years, the last few decades, as the number of people who are giving care is increasing a lot as we're getting older because, well, guess what? We are getting older, and people who are of a certain age are having to take care of their parents, siblings, friends, family. It is all sorts of people in there. And there are lots of things that we need to understand about that so that when that time comes, we're prepared for it, and also so that we can be knowing what to expect and also knowing what the person is going through, because there's going to be some things that even if you aren't a caregiver, you need to think about for a friend or family member who is a caregiver. So the number of people who are identifying as caregivers has gone up. It's gone up by about 2%. And you might be asking yourself, why is this number going up? Well, there's lots of reasons. Everything from the generation which would be baby boomers are needing more care, to states are actually helping people take care of others at home. There's a big push to take care of your family at home, which is a good thing, but that also means that there are going to be more people giving care. And with more people giving care, that's changing the way things are actually done in the world right now. So between everything, people getting older, people making a bigger push for people staying at home, you are seeing many more caregivers. So while we know more caregiving is happening, we don't know that more people are actually being taught how to be caregivers, or are they just being thrown out there and saying, here's the person you're taking care of. Good luck. That's a lot of what happens. A lot of people are just like trying to flounder their way into, how do I become a caregiver now? And you're seeing things like a lot of people who have never had children. That's going to become an issue because most people are of the opinion, if you can take care of kids, you can take care of a parent. Well, no, that doesn't exactly work that way, because your parents have different needs and different wants than your kids do, and you have different abilities to be able to control them. That's something to remember. Don't treat the older person the same way as you would treat a child, because, well, you'll find that one out quickly. That one doesn't work really well. The other thing is the resources for people who are actually becoming caregivers is limited depending upon how much care you have to give. If you're dealing with somebody who needs extreme amounts of care, you can sometimes find a lot of resources because there are lots of things for people who need an extended amount of care. Everything from people with dementia, for people with disabilities, you will find those resources. Where you have a new problem is when you have people who don't need as much care, because a lot of people still look at it as, well, you are barely doing anything. You don't need that much support. Well, should you? The answer to that question is probably not. No. Because just because you can do something doesn't mean that you actually know exactly how to do it. And without the resources that you see, there are lots of things to teach you about how to be a parent. There are lots of things to teach you about how to deal with people who have dementia, people who have physical limitations. But when you're in that position where you are just checking on somebody every now and then, or you're just moving them into your home so that way you can keep an eye on them so that they don't fall, they don't do something, they make sure that they eat, there's not lots of resources for that. And there's lots of resistance, especially if that person doesn't really want all that much help, but they need it. And sometimes they know that they need it, but they won't ask for it or they'll be resistant to it. And you have to scour everywhere to find out how you can find the resources that you need to be able to help that person. That's its own little bizarre thing. So the more that we can find out about what goes into being a caregiver and what doesn't go into being a caregiver, the more that we can find out, well, the more we can be a better caregiver. Because some people need a lot of care, and that's perfectly fine if they need a lot of care. Some people do not need a lot of care. We cannot treat everybody exactly the same because they're not. They're not exactly the same. I don't know if the person who you're giving care to or who you're going to give care to needs you to feed them or they just need you to take them to doctor's appointments. I do not know. You need to assess that and you need to figure out what it is that that person needs. And not exactly what you necessarily think that they should have, but what they actually need. Sometimes you can bring in somebody who will teach you, who will tell you, well, this person needs this, this, and this. Which is great. That's wonderful. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to figure these things out on your own. And if you make a mistake, there can be a lot of resistance from that point forward. Making a mistake with caregiving is bizarre because one of the things that you can get is somebody who will dig their heels in and be like, nope, you are not doing anything for me because I am not incapable of doing anything. You're also going to find those people who are incapable of doing something and they're still going to say, nope, you're not going to do that for me because I am still capable of doing it, even if they're not. And that's a little tricky kind of thing because these are not your kids. These are not people who you can say, well, you are grounded. I'm taking away your car keys until you do what I tell you to do. All right, what's the likelihood that the person who you're taking care of is going to give up doing one of the things that they want to do? Like, they might give up cleaning, but is cleaning one of the things that they really want to do? Do they actually want to spend hours and hours cleaning their house? That one might be easier to give up for some people. For others, it's not going to be easy to give up because some people have a certain way they like to have the house clean and they like to do it themselves. Or some people just absolutely don't want to clean. I mean, one of the ways you can tell that people need to get help is that their house. Has their house changed in appearance? Is it now not as clean as it used to be? Is it now things are in weird places or impractical? Those are signs that they might need some extra help. And you need to think about that. And that's a rough thing to do. Trying to convince somebody that they're doing stuff that they no longer should be doing can be excessively rough. But cleaning I found is one of those things that some people really don't mind giving up. Other people, like my mom, she's really adamant. She likes the way that she can clean. She's still at a point where she can clean. And that's something to think about. This is what's really important. And what makes this so hard is that we can make people worse off than what they are by taking away too much. If the person really can do stuff, let them do it. Because if they really can still do it, if you're just taking it away because it'll make your life a little bit easier, well, it might, but you're also going to take away some of their independence. And realistically, does it make your life more easy or easier? Or is it just setting you up for something worse in the long run? Because once the mindset of, well, I can't do this, so I can't do that, so I can't do that, starts adding up, it really is something to think about. But you have to look at each individual situation individually. Don't just group them together. That is one of the worst things that I have seen lately, is the fact that, like, my mom's talked to people where they've been like, well, at your age, you can't be doing that. Well, why? And the only answer was, because of your age. Not because you don't have the ability, because you don't have this. No, because you've hit a certain age, you can't be doing this. Well, that's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. If you can give me a physical reason or a logical reason that you can't be doing this, you can't be skydiving because your bones are brittle, and if you land incorrectly, you could break lots of bones. Good reason. But if you're just saying, you can't go skydiving because you're of that age, not a good reason. I don't know about that. Because Just give it it's the infamous, give the scientific reason and people will follow you. Yeah. So make sure that when you're explaining why somebody can or cannot do something, you're not just saying, because I said so. You're saying, because of X, Y, and Z. That will make your life easier, and also might give them something to push for. Because if they could overcome something that they can't do, that they could actually concentrate on, that might be something which they could work on and have a goal that they could work towards. And goals are wonderful. One of the best things about being able to back up what you're saying with actual facts versus because I say so is it's actual facts. They're no longer arguing with you, and you're no longer arguing with them over this is my opinion. You're arguing with the whole, I am presenting you the facts, here are the facts. They're facts. So that way, when you go into this and you're like forced into this or you volunteer for this, don't argue with somebody over emotion. Arguing emotion is one of the worst things that anybody can tell you in an argument, is the fact that you're just giving, this is how I feel, this is, no. This is what you can and cannot do because of X, Y, and Z. Hey, maybe we should work on X, Y, and Z, and maybe you can actually end up doing what you want it to do. It is so important to go into this explaining things. Because once you explain things, it's important. Once you give them a reason, and it's easier to reason with facts. That's why I keep saying it's really important to understand caregiving before you actually become a caregiver, so that way, instead of having these huge blow-up fights, and I mean from experience, huge blow-up fights that can just go on for hours or days. I mean, we've never had one that went on for days, but can go on for quite a while, and everybody's feelings get hurt and all those sort of things. No, instead you can go into this logically and say, hey, your doctor said that you can't do this because of that. If we start working because of that, then maybe you can do that again. Maybe you won't. We won't know. But miraculous things have happened, but don't give false hope. If the doctor said this is never, ever going to happen, can they still work on it? Yeah, they can if they want to, but don't give the whole, well, there could be a miracle, there could be a turnaround. No, there could be, but also don't dash hopes. Just say, it's unlikely, but we don't 100%. It's unlikely, but, you can try it. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I just want people to understand that going into this, understanding what you're going into, having some idea, and this is why I think they should be teaching caregiving in school versus how to raise a family and be a happy and wonderful spouse. Well, that's really great and everything. You might not have a family, you might not be a spouse. That's great, but you're probably going to end up taking care of somebody. They might be a parent, they could be a cousin, uncle, aunt, next door neighbor, I don't know. But so the things are increasing and the number of people that are being taken care of is increasing, you're going to see that happen. And you also have to think about your friends who really need you now, probably really need you, and they might not tell you. I know for me, my life has gone from hanging out with my friends, doing the YouTube videos, doing all the things associated with that, having fun, and not having to, just go and check on mom every once in a while, to my life has really become running her to appointments, making sure that she's doing the things that she needs to do, and making sure that, other little things don't just pop up or that sort of thing. And while that's not horrible, that can be, sort of isolating. And that's where, if you know that somebody is being isolated because you know how caregiving works, you know that people who are caregivers have a tendency to take on all this responsibility and have to say things like, well, no, I can't go and do this thing with you. No, I can't do this and this and this. They get isolated a lot, and I mean a lot. Their entire world becomes taking care of somebody. It's like that parent who, with kids, you can have a play date. Well, when you're taking care of like an older person, like an adult, very rarely do you get those chances of play dates or those sort of things. Or if you want to do something really kind for somebody who's a caregiver, call, come visit. They might actually need that support because a lot of times families and friends just disappear. They're always there to offer that help, but they're not there with that help or even that support because they have their own lives, and your life ends up being they don't want to hear you talk about what it's like to be a caregiver. They imagine that what you do is something else than what you do because for whatever reason, we believe in two separate things. Either to be a caregiver, the person is in bed and you are spoon feeding them, or you're not doing anything. You're just mooching off of them. And neither one is 100% correct. And that's the weirdest thing about this is there are lots of areas in between, and we need to show those. We need to show people that, hey, you know, sometimes your caregiving is just making sure that the bills are paid, or taking people to the doctor's appointments, or making sure that they're doing their exercises. Yeah, I'm sort of talking about myself. But I don't have to do things like, you know, making sure the laundry gets done, cleaning the house. No, because those things aren't what my mom is going through. I don't know what your family member is going through. But if I would have had some idea, I would have never done the whole, well, you know, I need to check on her every 5 minutes, because that's literally what I was doing when she first got injured. I was going and checking on her every 5 minutes to make sure that she was okay, that nothing was happening, and that didn't need to happen. It probably drove her insane just as much as it drove me insane. But I had no references. I had no idea. So I'm hoping that this will give you some sort of idea. And I think we're going to need it, like I said, from the earlier facts and figures. We know that people are spending, on average, about, I think it's 29 hours a week if you're giving care to somebody. Unpaid care, that's what you're spending, about 29 hours a week. As the person gets older, the amount of care goes up. If the person is younger, the amount of care usually goes down. But that is like a lot of time, and if you're working full-time, that's a lot of time. And if you're working full-time and you're the one who's mainly in charge of doing all the house and domestic chores, wow, that's a lot. You need to know this. You need to think about this. You need to think, well, maybe I'm not cut out to be a caregiver. And if you're not, hey, that's fine. If you are not cut out to be a caregiver, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know your limitations. It will save you and the person here giving care, the care receiver, it will give them, you know, something to deal with than rather a whole bunch of fights and a whole bunch of resentment. That's what we don't want. So I am not delusional enough to think that my experiences are the only experiences that there are. Mine are not. Mine are my experiences. But I'm hoping that what you're learning through all of this, or what you're seeing through all of this, is what I've gone through, so that maybe it can help you not go through and not make some of the mistakes that I have made. I'm going to give you, or have a video coming up, which is going to show you a week in my life. I was going to do a day in my life, but there is no one day which is like exactly like the rest. So that you can see what it is that I go through, what it is that I do, and understand why some of the caregivers are the way that they are. There are some bad caregivers. Don't get me wrong, those exist out there. But there are some who just don't know exactly what they're doing, and they're muddling through. Maybe this will help you not muddle through your caregiving. I don't know. I want to think that it will, but will it? One of the big goals of caregiving is to not take away somebody's independence. That's important. That's really important. You don't want to strip somebody of their independence completely because, well, then what? The goal is to try to give them some semblance that they still can do things for themselves, or still can do things that they like to do in a way, and you might have to assist them, but assist them in a gentle way that doesn't just overpower everything, where it becomes you are doing everything, they can do nothing except for sit there, because guess what? If that's what you want them to do, eventually they will learn that, and that's what they will do, and that will benefit no one. So try to keep that person doing things, no matter what it is. You might find that they have whole new hobbies that they like to do. One of the things which I can say, which became a big issue here, was TV and the news became a big issue here, because first, when Mom first hurt herself, she watched all the news and everything, and guess what? It depressed her. News wasn't great at that moment. So the less she started watching the news and the more she started doing other things that she liked, because now, since she's gotten determined that she is going to be able to knit again, because right now her fingers, it's sort of hard for all those muscles to work for her with her fingers, but she's working on it. She is trying, that's a goal, so that she can get those fingers moving. Once she gets those fingers moving, she can start doing more grip things with her hand. Once she gets more grip things with her hand, hopefully she should be able to drive again. See, that's where the little things, the little steps, and the logical part about this is the whole, we know that you can't do this, this is why you can't do this. So one of the biggest tips that I can ever give you about being a caregiver is go into this logically, not emotionally. The logical part about this will make sense. Ask the doctors the logical questions. Don't think that you're going to remember stuff, because guess what? You're not. Write it down. Write down everything. If that person has a question, write it down. If they want you to buy something, write it down. Because I've found that now, with as much stuff as I'm trying to remember, wowzers. There is a lot. There is a lot which I'm trying to remember, between grocery lists, doctor's appointments, medicines that have to be taken at certain times. I use my Google Calendar. Luckily, I had all of those things already set up, where I had my Google Calendar and my Google Keep helps me keep track of all of those things, all of the information that I need, so that way I can do things like when they ask for what medicines Mom has, I can pull them up on my phone because I have a picture of all of them. I've created a list which has all of their what they are, how many milligrams they are, how often she takes them, because guess what? That information is going to get used a lot, and I mean a whole lot. But that's one of those things which no one really tells you about that. Yes, you need to know all of their insurance information, but you also need to know all of their allergy information. You need to know all of the medicines that they are taking, even the over-the-counter medicines that they are taking. It's good to know everything from when the next hair appointment is to when the dog is going to get shampooed, so that way when somebody's like, well, here, let me do this appointment for you, and you're like, oh yeah, that works, and you have something scheduled for that. No, you're going to become a massive scheduler. You're going to become a massive, this is the date book. And the other part about this is, the thing with which I really am happy about is the fact that since I do mine all digitally and I have my phone with me 90% of the time, except for right now, which is ironic, that way I can pull up my phone and they can give me dates and I can be like, yes, that's when I can do this. Or grocery list, or even the thing, like I've said multiple times about this, is setting up the house so that way I can hear Mom if she needs me, or if the doorbell rings or something like that happens, but still not taking over her privacy. That's something to really think about. Going into this, knowing what's going to happen, or what could happen, or what's likely, what might be, but you have your eyes open, is so much more important than the whole, well, I'm just going to be a caregiver and all we're going to do is we're going to sit around and play cards and look at old pictures and it will be great, because it might not be. It might not be. It might literally be you trying to explain how to use modern technology all the time. Might not be. When we first got our phone, when we first got the TV, Mom hated it. Oh my gosh, we have a Google Chromecast. She hated it. It's stupid that she wants her old cable box back, but now that she's gotten used to it, it's wonderful. Getting her used to technology, getting her to the point where she can connect with all of her friends on whatever social media that she wants to. takes a little bit off of me also. So you need to think about those sort of things, and you need to look at this as the whole big picture of why are you doing this? When somebody asks you why you're doing this, you can give a logical explanation versus an emotional explanation. I found that a lot of people respond to logic better than they respond to emotions. Because I think when we think of emotions, we think about the fact that most things are sold using emotions versus actually explained using logic. So if they're trying to sell you on something and a lot of people realize that, then they're going, I'm not buying that for a second. You're just trying to sell me something that I probably don't need. Whereas if I can get you behind the logic of it, yeah, they might be more reliant to do that. So suddenly you've learned something about personal care or giving care. You've learned that, hey, giving care can be easier if you look at it in a certain way. Maybe this way will work well for you. Maybe this way is just rambling and idiotic. I don't know, because each case is individual. Each case relies on everything on its own, and you need to find that by taking baby steps into it. Don't jump in all full force into it going, I know what I'm going to do because this works so well for somebody else. That's great. That's wonderful. Find out what works for you and go with that. I really do hope that this helped at least a little bit, because that way, if you know what you're getting into, have some idea, have some understanding of what it's like. And like I said, the one which will help you even more is what you see when you see what I do in a week, because you will see that I'm also doing YouTube full time. So there's that. And you can say, oh, hey, wow, that's a lot of work. That's more work doing things than I thought it would be. So yeah, there you go. Let me know down in the comments if this was helpful, if there are other things you'd like to have me cover. Now, if you want to see things like a weekly vlog, which I do each week on Patreon, or you can also join the members, and the members get the weekly vlog. You can do that, and it helps support the channel so I can do more and more videos about things. You will see coming up, which is really cool, is some of the products and things that I use that help me get all of this done. And yes, eventually you will see Mom when she's ready to be on camera again. You will see her. So until that time, I hope I get to see you again the next time you stop by.